Welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is episode 25 of season 4. My name's Adil Ahmad, and I have Misophonia. This week I'm recording the intro from up near Lake Superior, where I'm on vacation for a few days. Initially thought I'd try to get a quiet space like I normally do, but I figure maybe I'll try to pick up some of the beautiful white noise in the background of the waves crashing against the shore. This week I'm bringing you the conversation I had with Pauline, who lives in the UK, but has spent a lot of time working for news organizations in the Middle East. She just found out about misophonia a few years ago, and it was a bit of a revelation, as it usually is, explaining some of the rough experiences she had growing up, as well as the coping mechanisms that she instinctively came up with. We cover all that, plus life with miso in the Middle East, and now moving back in with her parents, who were her original triggers. Announcement again, interview slots are still open for season 5, going fast. There are still some slots for September and October, so please grab one. A couple more episodes left over the next few weeks, but season 5 will then begin in probably around mid-September. You can find the link to sign up in the show notes. All right, now here's my conversation with Pauline.
Pauline, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Yeah, lovely to be here, Adil. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Why don't you maybe tell us first kind of whereabouts you're located?
I live in the UK. I'm in a tiny little village. Now, this is an interesting one. It's called Fingering Hoe. Now, I always get funny looks when I tell people that.
Yeah, okay. What a way to start the conversation.
Okay. yeah. But it's just outside Colchester, which is the oldest recorded town in the UK. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and but the place that I live is very rural, so I'm looking out at the moment over a field of sheep. So.
Nice. Beautiful. That's idyllic. Yeah. And just maybe I'm sure we'll get to this a little bit, but is that location kind of due to misophonia? Is that something you kind of gravitated towards, that kind of environment?
No, it's actually just where my parents are living right now.
Okay.
I'm living with them. So yeah, I moved in with them when I came back from the Middle East, which we'll get to when I start talking about, my background and stuff. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd love to hear. So I usually ask kind of where people are located and then kind of what kind of line of work they're in, like what they do.
Yeah. So, well, right now I'm embarking on a freelance writing career. I have a background in broadcasting. I worked for 20 years for the BBC first, and then Al Jazeera in Qatar for the last 6 years or so. I'm just back from there really a couple of years ago I got back from there. And so since then I've done a master's degree in human rights and now trying to get my writing published. So I'm covering quite an eclectic range of subjects, from human rights and counter-terrorism, the use of drones, the Middle East, Yemen in particular, because I traveled to Yemen when I was in the Middle East. So, and that's obviously a very sort of interesting area at the moment, with what's going on there with the war and everything.
A lot that we know about, but a lot I'm sure that we don't know about that's going on over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's what I'm up to at the moment, trying to get that off the ground. Which I've always worked at big organizations in the past, so this is a really new venture for me. This is really quite tough.
Why did you decide to make this shift? Just out of curiosity.
Because it's something that's always been burning in my heart to do. And after I'd been working in the Middle East for a while, I came back and I thought, right, it's time to reset. Plus I turned 50 just at that point, so it was a milestone. And I thought, now or never, So I thought, well, why not give it a go for a while? If it doesn't work out, okay, I've got some contacts. I can probably move back into what I was doing before.
Right.
We'll just take it from there and see how it goes.
Okay.
I've always followed my nose, really, I think, when it comes to my career. I've never really planned very well. I've kind of fallen into things.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of us tend to be, I think we have a lot of different interests. And I mean, I know a lot of people are either, ADD or kind of proverbial ADD, where we just have a lot of different things going on and just kind of follow our nose. I know I definitely do that almost to a fault, where it's like, today I was like, Okay, I have like there's like four or five like deep projects I'm working on now, and I have to like the amount of time that I'm gonna have to spend like watching, you and I nerd out, so like I have to like learn everything about a subject. So
Oh
all
God, that's
these
just like
you,
me. I'm like that too.
YouTube
Yeah.
playlists that I have to watch, I'm calculating like how long is this gonna, take me to like be to the point where I feel like I have some kind of a where I don't feel as imposter syndrome to kind of experts at whatever it is,
Mm,
creative or technical or something. So,
mm, mm. Yeah.
anyways, enough about me. But
Yeah.
so so have any of these decisions been? It sounds like yeah, they're stuff that have been gnawing at you. But any of these decisions influenced at all by your sensitivity, your sensitivity to sound? I know a lot of people kind of like gravitate towards more private workspaces. I'm curious if that
Mm.
has ever been a factor, and we'll get into how it's kind of played into your career. But I'm just curious if that's been a
Yeah.
part of your
I
decisions.
think actually it's funny, you probably hit on something that I hadn't really thought about much before, but I think my I've got overall sort of highly sensitive personality,
Hmm.
and which includes the misophonia, but I've got it in a lot of other ways, like being sensitive to emotion, and I have to take out time to be on my own a lot. I have to be, I like sort of my own time. I have to do it to be
Yeah.
a normal functioning human being. Otherwise, I get really itchy and I can't function very well if I don't get that time out. And I think writing is I've sort of learned that writing is the perfect thing for me. I've always journaled throughout my life, and that's been like a sort of like a mental health thing. I've used it to cope with situations and emotional issues that are going on in my life. So I think it's coming. It's almost like it's always been coming, if you know what I mean. Coming to the right, coming back to the writing has always been there for me.
Yeah.
So I think
Is journaling something that you've done regularly, or is it just
yeah,
mainly been to
yeah.
cope with um to to cope with if you happen to be going through a rough time?
No, I've kind of always done it, whatever happens. But I
Hmm.
found that it has helped me as well. It's been a byproduct, the helping my mental health has been a byproduct of doing it, really. But yeah, I've always done it. I've always liked to document and
Yeah.
write about things that are going on. I felt it's important. Not. I sometimes do look back on things, but not that often. So, but I'm writing a book, so that they've come in useful for that for sure.
Oh, for sure. And when you write your
Yeah.
memoirs later about your great life and everything, I'm sure it'll be super useful. Are there a lot of ripped messy pages about misophonia triggers? Are there in your journaling, or is that kind
Yes,
of
yes,
just
some, yeah,
polite
yeah,
mention?
some. But I never knew it was a thing until about 3 years ago.
Mm.
So I got through my whole life not realizing that it was me that was the problem. I thought it was all these people that made these disgusting noises that were the problem. I didn't think it was me. I thought everyone felt like me. I thought everyone just thought, oh
Oh,
my God, So I never realized until, and it was working at Al Jazeera that I discovered what this was, because there was a guy working there who, well, maybe I can get onto what I was doing there, because I was working at Al Jazeera on a project which is
yeah.
to upgrade all of the broadcast infrastructure, which required a lot of moving people around and replanning their space. And we were building new studios, building new buildings. I had to move the whole of the Arabic channel into a new building before their 20th anniversary for a relaunch. And there
Mm.
was a guy working in the programs department in the Arabic channel, and he came to me one day and he said, "You must make sure that I get my own office in this new space plan." And I said, "Oh, right, okay. Why is that?" Because he wasn't a manager. And there was this big thing at Al Jazeera, you could only have your own office if you were a manager. And he said, "Well, I've got this thing about sound." And I said, "Oh, right, okay." And he said, I've got a doctor's letter. I've spoken to the doctor about it. It's a recognized thing, and it's called misophonia. And so, but the weirdest thing is it didn't ring a bell at the time. I didn't make that connection with me
Yeah.
right at that moment. It was only later when I thought, right, okay, I better do some research on this, because I need to justify
I'm dying.
if I'm gonna
Yeah.
if I'm going to
Oh,
get this guy an office, I've
oh,
got to
that guy,
justify
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did some research, and then when I started doing the research about it, I thought, oh my God, this is what's been troubling me all this time. And all of the memories of all the different things that happened over the years came flooding back, and it was a complete eureka moment. It was amazing, and I almost cried because I thought, I'm not mad. This
Yeah,
is a
you wouldn't be the
genuine
only
thing.
one
I have
who
a
cried.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. So I
Okay,
kind of,
lots. Yeah.
yeah, it was an accident, really. Me finding
Yeah,
out.
lots of stuff, interesting things right there. One thing, the first thing I want to ask is, what, I don't know if it's appropriate, but what was the ethnic background of the gentleman that you, just because I grew up, I'm South Asian, grew up in a Muslim family, so it's just interesting
Uh-huh.
to hear about. It was just another Arab person
Yes.
who,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow,
He
okay,
was Arabic. Yeah. I can't. He was
located
from.
in the
I
Middle
think he was.
East. Yeah.
Yeah. He was. I think he was from the Levant somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where. Whether he was Syrian or Lebanese. I'm not sure exactly. But he was from that sort of. There was a lot of Arab expats that worked in Al Jazeera in Qatar.
Oh,
Um,
fascinating. Because I mean,
yeah.
that would not be who, I mean, just having grown up with a lot of these cultures, that's not what I would expect for someone who would go to a doctor and actually get a doctor's note. Like, mental
Yeah.
health is not really talked about. Misophonia is not even known here amongst doctors
I
here. So that's
know.
amazing that was. Do you know more about like where he went to that doctor, kind of like how that
No,
happened? Okay.
I
Okay.
really missed a trick. I never really because it was very close to the end of my tenure there, and so
Uh-huh.
I never. I mean, I got really busy with other things, and I never really went back to him and had a proper conversation.
Sure,
I
sure.
could now actually, because I know who he is, and I
Well,
remember.
maybe yeah, I would love to have him on the
Yeah.
show. That'd be
Oh
fascinating.
right. I'll see if I can do some research and find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to okay, let's get back to you. So picturing you're about to cry, doing research for this, and that's not
Yeah.
uncommon. I mean, so many people are like they find out what it is, however they find out, they're just going down the rabbit hole online and are just kind of blown away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It was amazing.
how did that change your how did that change your life? I guess big question.
Um. Well, I think that's a really good question, actually, um, because I think, well, it brought back all the things that I think it sort of reinforced the fact that I wasn't the I wasn't the problem. If you see well, I know I was the problem, but it wasn't my fault. I
Yeah.
wasn't being difficult because I remember the first thing I do remember about misophonia is I think about 12, and I was at the kitchen table and I felt really, really angry and disgusted with the sounds of my father eating toast. And it just, I felt it almost uncontrollably, like I just needed to flee. And I, I didn't realize what that was. Obviously, I didn't at the time, so I was just 12 and I had no idea what any of that was. But I think I always thought in my family that I was the difficult child. I had slightly difficult sort of upbringing and um, felt um, like the sort of the odd one out in the family, if you know what I mean. And I just felt
Mm.
that all that was kind of wrapped up in that. So to get that signal that actually, no, it wasn't you being difficult or different or unusual. You've actually got an issue. You've got a problem that you can't help. It's not your fault, you know. So I felt a little bit bullied, really, I suppose, in my family. And I'm wondering if, I don't know whether that plays into, I know other people have perhaps mentioned that as well, that maybe that plays into the condition. I don't know, that sort
How
of
you
feeling.
if it reinforces the condition, that the
Yeah,
bullying.
how you
Yeah.
feel in your family or by the people who trigger you. Because for me, my triggers are definitely family. They're not so much general out in the community. Like I can sit happily in a cafe or in a cinema and never get triggered. Mine are very
Oh,
specifically, um, yeah, my father, my mom, and my partner actually of 25 years. But
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, that's a common thing. Is that at least it starts in the family. It most often then starts to proliferate to like, I can't be in a movie theater. But that all that stuff usually happens later on, like as you get into your 20s and whatnot. But yeah, very common for mom or dad or both
Mm,
to trigger, and then potentially, depending on what type of people they are, to kind of like dismiss it, maybe mimic
yeah.
it, and just kind of do all that nonsense. Um, when your dad, and I was asked this question, when your dad ate that toast that morning, that wasn't the first time, right? That he would have had breakfast with you.
No,
It, it's just
no.
something all combined on that day to kind of like start this terrible journey for you, I guess.
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
Yeah.
I just remember that
Not
day.
something that happened, but something in your brain or something in your
Yeah,
perception
yeah.
changed at
I
that
don't
point.
know because, I mean, that's definitely the. I remember that day like it was yesterday, and yet
Mm,
I don't remember anything around it at all. Just that one moment in time is stuck in my memory for my whole life, and I don't even remember much after that, and I don't remember anything before it. In terms
yeah.
of in terms of my misophonia, I don't remember anything else really much triggering me. Just that one that that one instance, and then from there on in, every morning I had to struggle with that situation, and do things like blocking my ear, and I still do that because now I'm back living with my parents again for the first time since I was a kid. And now, of
Hmm.
course, and I hadn't thought about that when I came back here, and now I'm sitting at the dinner table with my finger in one ear, trying not to look
Yeah.
obvious, and it's difficult. Yeah.
Did you tell them now, after all these years, after now knowing what it is, that you have misophonia and it's a real thing?
I've spoken to my mom about it a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've started the conversation very
Mm-hmm.
gently, but they're very sort of stiff upper lip. You don't talk about
Mm-hmm.
health, you just suffer and get on with
Mm-hmm.
it. They're not interested really. And especially something like this would seem really, I mean, it would be really, it's really,
Wacko.
really
Yeah.
difficult. Yeah, it's really difficult to explain. I've spoken to my partner about it, and he's been really supportive. He's been lovely. Um, I mean, at first he wasn't. At first he was, well, he wasn't not lovely, but he just sort of said, look, can't you just rationalize this?
Right.
Because,
Common.
like, I'll
Yeah.
give you a really good example. My mum, my mum is the most wonderful person on earth, yet she still triggers me. She knits little hats for babies in the
Mm-hmm.
premature baby unit in our town. Now, there's nothing more lovely than that, yet the knitting of it drives me up the wall. I want to kill her when she's knitting these little hats for babies. And I just
Yeah.
sit there and I think, look, don't be ridiculous. This is a wonderful thing she's doing. How can you sit here and feel repulsed by this? It's nonsense. But I can't help it. It's mad. That's the crazy thing about it, isn't it? I mean, you can't rationalize it. It's not. It's just a switch. It's like a switch in your brain, and then all
Yeah,
these
it's almost like
emotions.
two sides of your brain become active. It's like one side is like crazy, and then the other side can rationalize it in the moment, even sometimes. But it's just like, yeah, the uncontrollable rage is just, yeah,
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
can't
I
get
mean,
away
I
from
can
it.
I can start, and especially if I'm not really that stressed, if I'm feeling really relaxed and calm, and me and my mum have had a really nice day or something together, and then she gets the knitting out in the
Right.
evenings, and I'll sit and I say, right, okay, now just and I sort of prepare myself, and I said, right, you can do this, you can do this, and I'll almost force myself to watch everything she's doing, like properly watch it, because I also suffer the knitting as a visual for me as well as
Yeah,
a
gonna ask.
oral
Right.
one. Yeah, I get lots of visual ones, and the knitting is one. And even if I see it just a fraction out the corner of my eye, that's almost worse than if I stare at it. This sounds
Yes.
crazy, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, if it's, I mean, if it has anything to do with our something about our brain assigning danger to a sound or a visual, then I can see how, you know, if it's something on the side of your peripheral, then it almost
Yeah,
seems like maybe it's something, some danger is about to approach. But if you're staring at it, it's almost like you have some control. And yet
yeah,
control is yet another factor. It's like if you can control your environment, like that gentleman in at your
yes,
offices was trying to get. if you have control, it's a little bit, it can help. And like you said earlier, lower stress. If you've had a nice day, it can help as well,
Yeah.
somewhat.
Yeah, the control element for me is a really big one, and I because I'm a highly sensitive person as well. I yeah, control is everything for me. I'm a
Hmm.
terrible control freak about everything. And what I used to do, because I lived in a hotel, the worst thing about having my job in Qatar was I lived in a hotel for 6 years, and you
Mm.
can't control that because you're in a little room, and either side of you and up and down, above and below you, people are always changing,
Right.
and they're slamming doors, they're banging drawers and tottering about in stiletto heels above your head, and or honestly, it was a nightmare. So
Yeah.
what I had to do to actually feel calm was I used to go to the souk, and I used to sit. They had a wonderful souk in Qatar, which is like, well, is a market. It was basically kind of like a marketplace, but it had lots of wonderful
Oh, a souk, SOUK, I believe.
so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And they had lots of lovely cafes in the souk, and I would sit there. I'd go there every evening instead of sitting in my hotel room, because
Hmm.
even though there's lots of people and I suppose potentially a lot of triggers, the fact that there was a general sort of hubbub of noise and people and things happening around, there was no. I don't. That doesn't trigger me. It's usually if for me it's usually the more subtle the sound, the worse it is. So
Hmm.
if it's a tiny little tap tap tap, but sorry, so I shouldn't have done that. But if it's a tiny noise
That's a
above my head in a hotel room, like someone's heels on the floor, that is disaster. But if I'm in an area where there's lots of people and lots of noise and lots of things going on around me, then I'm fine. So I could sit there
yeah.
all evening, feel completely relaxed, knowing that I wouldn't get triggered, and I would feel completely fine.
Makes
And
total sense to me.
I couldn't kind of get surprised, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I wasn't sitting in silence, and then suddenly that silence is
Right.
disrupted.
And if you did get triggered, even through the white noise at the souk, you could just get up and move. It's an open
Move
space.
quite.
You're not trapped in a box.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, because I honestly have found I've prowled the corridors of hotels in the middle of the night looking for the sound, looking for where the hell is that coming from. I've got to stop it. And
yeah.
I've rung reception and said, look, the person above me is walking around, and they
Yeah.
said, well, we can't do much about that, madam, I'm afraid. or or there's a tap dripping in the bathroom above me and I can hear it.
Hmm.
And honestly, they honestly must have thought I was the guest from hell. But I it was awful.
Are you able to get the top floor? I mean, if you're going to stay there for 6 years, you
I
might as well get the top
always,
floor.
yeah,
Yeah.
I always ask for that.
Yeah, and then I mean, I guess speaking of like spaces and going back to that office that you were involved in earlier. Do you know what ended up happening in terms of did anything happen in the office design to kind of like um, help that one gentleman get a private office, or just kind of like keep things quiet in general, or was there anything done to basically address misophonia on any level?
It's a good question. I don't know what happened in the end because I left
You weren't there. Okay. Yeah.
before they moved, but I certainly did, from my part, put a space on the plan for him to have his own office. Whether
Okay.
that happened after I left, I'm not sure. Um, yeah, I'm not in touch, because it was quite a while after I left that they moved. I think everything
Gotcha.
there took long. I mean, it took forever to get things happening and changing. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I have meant to follow up with him actually and see what happened. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not
Keep me
sure.
posted. I'd love to know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The whole
yeah.
world is this guy, poor guy, has no idea. He's probably
He
in the middle of a
might be
trick.
listening to
Yeah,
this. You never know.
he might be. You wanted to, yeah, tell me more about your life down in Qatar, and kind of, maybe was there, did you notice any difference there with your triggers, or just kind of awareness compared to maybe being up in the UK?
Yeah, I think I felt more in control of it there.
Hmm.
I think because I was on my own, so I wasn't living with my partner wasn't with me there.
Hmm.
He stayed in the UK, so at least I was alone. So my immediate environment I could always control. Except I did
Right.
work in an open plan office myself, and so I did. I don't remember any really terrible regular triggers there, except, occasionally I would have people like tapping on their desk or clicking their pens and that kind of thing. That I remember
Yeah.
those sorts of things, but there was nothing that really got to me
Did you
badly.
eat in the cafeteria or eat with the team at all for meals?
No, sometimes
No,
I ate in the
that helps.
cafeteria. Yeah,
Okay.
occasionally,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, not usually. No, no, I didn't used to do that. I didn't used to do a lot of group eating. That's true. I'm not sure whether that was a subconscious thing or
I hate
what.
eating. Yeah, I don't eat it. I mean, I work from home, but I definitely, basically stopped doing the group eating quite a while ago
Yeah,
at
yeah,
work.
yeah. No,
Um,
I spent. I mean, the nice thing was I was able to really spend my alone time, and I could, if I was ever really highly stressed or triggered badly, I could get away and I could distress myself through my alone time, which I had a lot more of there, which was nice.
yeah.
And I could
So
take,
was that your? Mhm. Yeah.
sorry, I could take myself off. There's lots of favorite places I had that I knew I could go to, like places of comfort, if you will, where I
In
knew
the
like,
office environment
no,
itself? Oh,
outside, like
yeah.
outside. Yeah. And actually I was lucky because my job was not, it was, I had a desk in an open plan space, but because it was a project and my project was basically covered the whole of the network, so it covered all of the channels, documentary, English, Arabic, the live channel, everything, and uh, the online teams as well. I was
Hmm.
walking around a lot, so I was moving about. So I was never really stuck in one place, having to listen
Yeah.
to somebody. That's probably what helped.
No,
Yeah,
that's good. That's the
the
important part of it.
BBC
Yeah.
was the same. Because they were projects, my job was basically to get out there and talk to people out in their environments and you know sort of see what was going on around the place and talk to people. Because I was communications, and it was communications and change role, which sort of basically means you're the person who trots along to people and gives them bad news. So I would go
Mm.
along and say, "Oh, hello. I'm really sorry, but you're going to have to move offices, or I'm going to have to wrench you out of here where you've sat for the last 10 years and move you somewhere else." And so people would often run the other direction when they saw me coming, which is
Gotcha.
nice.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I see. I see. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Um, and so your main coping mechanism is, yeah, basically uh, controlling the ability to control where you are. So you're able to kind of like you're just able to move around. That probably reduces stress a little bit because you're not trapped. It,
Yeah.
but if you're communicating with a lot of people, it seems like you're probably not wearing noise canceling headphones at all times or anything, right? It was
No, no, I never did that. The only time I ever used that sort of thing was when I was in the hotel, and I'd use a rainstorm at night, so that would block out
right.
any surprise sounds, like if someone moved into the room next to me in the middle of the night or something. So I had a rainstorm on every night, which is, well, effectively white noise, isn't it? But
Yeah.
just yeah, yeah, I used
Gotcha.
that, which was wonderful. Oh, the comfort I found from switching that on was amazing. I just loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
did.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess, yeah, maybe let's talk about it because it sounds like you had quite a bit of time between that toast, your dad's toast, and you finding out what misophonia was.
Mm.
Tell me about those years in between. Like, what was it like? Do you remember any interesting moments? I'm sure you had quite a few triggers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. The weird thing is, I don't remember much more about being
Hmm.
triggered at home when I was a child. My triggers got much worse once I was living with my partner, like into
Hmm.
my sort of 20s, 30s, 40s. That's when I really started noticing, and then that's when the visual triggers started as well,
Yeah.
because he had lots of things that which would really which would really I can't say irritate, because it isn't irritate, it's much worse than that.
Right.
And
Right.
it, he would sit and he would jiggle his foot, or he would twiddle his hair, or there were sort of these tiny things. And he also had a throat noise that he sometimes made, and I found myself mimicking this uncontrollably, and I didn't understand why I was doing it. And I don't know why. It was almost like I was trying to send him a message subconsciously, like, do you not realize you're making this noise? I was sort of trying to alert him to it. One day he got really angry with me. I said, well, what? And he said, why are you copying me? So he knew he was doing it. And I said, and I didn't really know what to say. And I didn't know then that misophonia was a thing. So we had this big argument about it. And of course, he was really angry with me, understandably, because it just seemed really rude what I was doing. But I couldn't help it. And the other ones, the visual ones, I would do things like put a cushion, place a cushion strategically on my lap to hide his foot, or put my hand by my eye.
Hands, long hair, all kinds.
My hair was always on the side of my face, and it was awful. I thought, what the hell? Why am I having to do this? And because I just thought.
Now, was that from the get-go, or was that like after you're committed and there's no way out, really? He started triggering you.
Yeah, I mean, we'd been together for quite a long time.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we were together for 25 years. We weren't married, but we were sort of partners for 25 years. And I, no, I never thought it was never enough. I mean, it never felt enough to sort of to break us up, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, no.
It was never sort of because I know it is for some people. Because I'm on some of the Facebook groups. And I know some people are absolutely tortured to the point where they just think, I cannot carry on, It was never that bad. It was just, at certain moments, it was worse than others, really, I suppose.
Right. What about other friends, like social circles? Are they aware of your miso? Do you even get triggered by friends?
No, I don't think I ever have. I mean, I used to get certain things it's when I'm trapped. So if I'm traveling on a train, for example, and I'm sitting in a seat and there's someone beside me chewing gum, that will do it. So I'll occasionally get it from, people, well, strangers, for want of a better word. But that's only if I can't get away, I suppose, really. Yeah. But no friends have ever, I don't think.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it sounds very. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, it sounds like people close to you for sure have been triggers. Have you ever gone to see? Has it been enough that you've gone to see a professional, like a therapist or anybody?
No, but I've recently been thinking about it because and in listening to your podcast quite a bit, when I've heard British people talking about it. I don't think it's not quite as recognised over here, from what I'm picking up from a lot of people. I've not been to the doctor about it, or I've never seen anyone professionally, but I have been thinking about it more recently because it has got a lot worse. Because obviously I'm living with my parents, and the issue here is that they are in their mid-70s, and I'm here because I want to make up for lost time. When I was in the Middle East, I didn't really see them because I didn't get back home very much. And I wanted to have some quality time with them and support them, which timing wise was great when the pandemic hit, of course, because I was able to, because they're both considered vulnerable, so I was able to go out and do their shopping and look after them, really. So the idea of having quality time but not having meals with them is a bit of a contradiction, isn't it? So, because that's an important time, that's an important social thing to do, is to eat with your family, and it's really important to my family that we sit down together and we eat together. So I have been thinking perhaps that maybe I could see someone about it, but there isn't really much anyone can really do, is there?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
the
if you go see
thing.
them, it's not like you're going to come back and be able to have a giant meal with your family and it's all good. So,
No,
um,
no. So I've you've just found my own way through it, really, I suppose. With my own coping mechanisms, which aren't all that successful, I have to admit. But
so you are eating with
um,
them, and you're
yeah,
just kind of like
yeah.
eating quickly, probably, or
Well,
just
luckily we have the TV on, and
okay,
yeah.
yeah,
So I zone in on that, and
yeah.
I actually make sure that I'm not racing ahead, because if I race ahead and I'm finished, I can't eat to mask the sound. You see what I
Oh,
mean?
yes, good point.
So
So
I try and keep
mimicry
the
is
same
kind of
pace.
yeah, I see. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah,
Mm,
the sounds of your own right. You have that internal microphone that
yeah,
will amplify your own noises that can help reduce. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I never thought about
Yeah,
those your own eating sounds that way. I've heard about mimicry,
mm.
but yeah, your
Oh,
own eating sounds can help mask things out without anyone noticing that you have something going on.
yes, exactly. And almost in time. I'm almost chewing in time. Honestly, really.
Yeah.
I know that sounds
Now we're
mad.
next level. Yeah, we're getting to the next level here. But this is yeah. Let's dive into this. I haven't even. So are you kind
Yeah.
of watching them to see like when they pick up their food, and then
Yep.
maybe calculating how big the bite is, so that you can get your, time the chewing right and everything.
Almost. Yeah.
All
But
yeah
definitely,
yeah
I'm keeping an eye on how much food is left on the plate. Yeah, when the fork is going. Honestly,
yeah.
it's weird in talking to you that I've only really consciously realized that's what I'm doing. But I am. Yeah, I'm definitely doing that because our kitchen table is very small, so we're very close.
Oh, okay
That's
okay.
not helpful.
That's not helpful. No, because I was
So
imagining you were at least in a giant living room on different sofas and watching TV, but no, a
no,
small
we
little.
have to sit at the table. My father
Okay,
insists on it. He's very old
yeah.
fashioned like that, and it's a very small table. So what I do is I slide my plate. I'm not sure if they've noticed this. Maybe I just look really horribly antisocial, but I slide my plate right to the farthest end of the table that I can, and then I chew in time
Yeah,
and watch the telly.
beautiful.
But then
It makes no sense to me and everybody listening.
this is a
So,
great picture.
uh,
But this is
yeah,
how I cope. This is my coping. This is the only way that I can do it, and
yeah.
be able to maintain a relationship with my family. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good. I have ducked out of meals before because I do things like fasting, and I do things like ketogenic diet, and I'm sometimes not eating the same thing, or I eat at different times.
Hmm.
I've tried lots of different things to help duck out of meals on occasion if I can, but it's just I felt really guilty. I feel terrible when I do that because I know they want to eat with me, you see. So
Do they notice that you're? I mean, do they notice that you're doing? I know you talked to your mom a little bit about it, but
mm,
do they notice that you're doing things? Do they consider it antisocial? Um,
yeah,
Curious how aware they are.
I think they certainly they don't they're not sort of keen on weirdness around food.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're sort of they consider me a bit odd because I do things like the keto diet and fasting. They
Okay.
think I'm starving myself, but fasting's really good for you actually. And in fact,
Yeah.
actually, I've found fasting can sometimes help because it lowers the inflammation in your body generally, and it can
Huh.
calm me substantially. I find my whole system calms right down when I fast. If I fast for 24, 36, 48, sometimes 72 hours,
Wow.
completely. And I always do Ramadan, by the way. I
Oh
always
yeah, I was
do
going to
that.
ask you. Ramadan's coming up, so I mean, but you can't in Ramadan. You can't drink. You can't even drink water
No, you can't drink
during the
water
fast.
either.
But with
No.
72 hours, you must be drinking something.
Yeah, it was
Um,
72 hours. It's more like
yeah.
a water. It's a water fast.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And the occasional black coffee to stay the
Yeah.
headaches away.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But
Okay. Okay. So Yeah, so because yeah, your parents, you said that they were kind of bully. I was just curious if if do you have siblings as well? I'm curious
Yeah,
how.
I have a brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it has has the misophonia like affected those relationships in terms of maybe causing stress or distance between people?
Uh, yeah, I think it's affected my relationship with my father. For
Hmm.
me, I don't think for him because
He
he
doesn't give a
doesn't
shit. Okay.
notice. But he's never noticed, and I've never had the
Yeah.
conversation, and I don't let it show that I'm upset or
Okay.
that I have a problem with him and his eating. I'm a really good actress like that.
Hmm.
So I'll put on a happy smiley face, but inside I'm screaming. If you see
Yep.
what I mean.
Oh, we know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. So, but
That's
for
interesting
me,
because yeah, for
yeah,
you, yeah. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
yeah. For me, I think I've, yeah, I feel more distant because of it with him. Yeah, definitely, because it just makes me so angry.
Right.
And my mum does things. My mum's quite heavy-handed, and she slams doors, and she when she empties the dishwasher, it's like World War Three going off in the house.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I sit here in a rage, and I think, can't you do that quietly? Why can't you? You know.
No, dude,
But
we're
then,
renovating our kitchen, and I've spec'd out like thick sliding doors, so that the
oh,
kitchen is basically going to be isolated from the rest of the house, yeah, if
yeah.
needed. So,
I've dreamt about going down to the DIY shop and getting those little sort of little cushiony things you can put in the door frames.
oh
And I
yeah,
thought maybe I
yeah,
could do that, to stop the doors from slamming all the time. And oh
yeah. It's funny. The actually this week's interview with Mara. I mean, she works well in her own house, but also where she does cleaning overnight because she can't handle sounds in the day. Like she has
mm.
bumpers installed on all the doors, like even
Oh,
without even asking permission, just to kind of deaden the sound of doors slamming. So
yeah.
yeah, that's definitely a thing.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, yeah, it is a big thing for me. Yeah.
Very cool. I guess so yeah, well yeah, your siblings, so none of your siblings have exhibited any signs or anything. Have you talked to them about misophonia?
No, no. I don't get on well. My brother's okay, but he's another one that's he's another intellectual bully. So I'm not really.
Okay.
He and I don't really. I mean, he's in
What do you
Germany
mean
now
by
anyway.
okay?
He
What do you mean
doesn't.
by intellectual bully? He just argues with you about everything, or just about this and about this, kind of like thumbs kind of puts his nose down on, weird conditions.
Yeah, I mean, he's very science oriented. So if it's not, if it hasn't been sort of
Okay.
through
Yeah.
scientific trials for the last 1,000 years, then it isn't a
Right.
thing. Or if and he's very sort of. I'm a very much a try it and see. I'm a kind of
Yeah.
I like to try things, and if they work for me, they work for me. But that he and my father are very much down the sort of anecdotal evidence isn't evidence.
Gotcha.
They're sort of it has to be go through the whole scientific sort of process, and and is very sort of dismissive of lots of the things that I write and the things that
Hmm.
I do, and very sort of well, quite patronizing. Always it's always been that way in my family because my it's a very I suppose it's quite a patriarchal situation in which the female members of the family are a bit dismissed and the male
Mm.
members are the top dogs, as it were. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Okay,
Oh no, no, I've
okay.
never discussed that with him at all.
Right, right, right. Um, interesting. Okay, okay. Yeah, that's yeah. Well, there's a lot of new research coming out. I mean, I've
Mm.
talked recently to Dr. Rosenthal at Duke University and a
Oh.
number of other researchers. So there's some interesting stuff coming down the pipe. So hopefully we'll change some minds.
Yeah.
Um, what about what do you have upcoming? I guess in terms of I don't know in terms of work or stuff you're writing on is um, are you planning to travel again soon, or are you going to be focusing on your writing here at home?
Yeah, for now, obviously, with everything that's happening, and
Right.
we're still, well, we're not completely locked down here in the UK anymore. Up and well,
Well, some
from
things happening in June, I guess, or
from
it's going to be
Monday,
a free for all.
we're allowed to do things like go to the gym and the swimming pool and that kind of stuff. And I
Okay.
think some things will open up. But yeah, but I think possibly from June we might be able to do things. But I'm not sure that foreign travel will be among them. I have to go to Oman soon because I've got a place over there, and I have to. I've got some legal issues to deal with over in Oman. So I've got to go there at some point, but I
You got
can't
to
at the
send some
moment.
drones around and take care of
Yeah.
some business. That's not even funny, probably, but yeah.
Yeah, if you're talking about Yemen, it wouldn't be funny, but yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah, no. But Yemen's not right next door to Oman, so
Right.
yeah, I'm basically I snuggled as close to the border with Yemen when I bought somewhere
Hmm.
in Oman, and I kind of got as close as I could to Yemen to buy
Oh, you
somewhere.
bought property there.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. I bought a little place
That's
there,
quite an
which
emerging market.
yeah, you could say
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Not so far discovered by that many, but
Right.
yeah, yeah. It's very nice country, Oman. Beautiful country. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd love
Um,
to visit there sometime.
but
Um,
lockdown generally has been, to get sort of back to the misophonia,
yeah.
has been really hard, because I haven't had that relief of being able to go out and take myself to a cafe and just have my own
Yep.
time. It's all been very concentrated, very focused. Although I obviously have my own space in my room, I don't have the headspace, because you can't, when you're in the same building as people who trigger you, even though you can hear the doors, you can hear things going on, you never really properly get away. And so lockdown has been difficult, really, really, really hard.
I
Yeah,
hear you. It's like, I mean, especially with you, and I think you're kind of like me in that, we don't necessarily maybe have to have headphones on all the time. I love music, but just knowing that I can have alone time and be able to take a break and go somewhere else
yeah,
is everything. And so this situation of everyone being home all the time and not being able to go anywhere is, yeah, that's tough. In the
yeah.
beginning, I thought maybe, all right, I get to avoid other people. That sounds good. But that quickly kind of something shifted around the end of the year, end of last year, where yeah, it just got really hard.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, and with the HSP as well, the highly
Right.
sensitive
I've had a
business.
couple of those folks on, a couple of people with HSP on. I don't know if you heard those episodes, but yeah, please,
Yeah, I
I'd love to hear
did.
more about that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, um, it just means my central nervous system has just got an increased sensitivity to sort of everything, really. So
Mm,
sounds, general sort of noise, as well as the misophonia type of noises, but also to emotions. Like if there's tension, and it's quite a tense house, I have to say. If there's
mm,
tension, um, uh, it's just, I find out my nerve, during lockdown, my nerves have been quite on edge, and I get really exhausted very easily. And I found myself crying more than usual, and all these emotions kind of coming up through me, and the stress has been higher. And yeah, it's been quite tricky. I mean, um, I love, if anyone wants to find out a little bit more about that, I think Elaine Aron, I think, has written a lot on the subject. And my favorite, Susan Cain, although it's not quite the same, it's introversion. I think her book's about introverts, but there's a big crossover between
mm,
introverts and highly sensitive people. And she often talks about how she needs a lot of quiet time to recharge. If you're working, in a busy environment or something, you have to recharge at the end of the day on your own. And I find that a lot. I have to get away on my own a lot to recharge my batteries and be like a normal person.
yeah.
In fact, funnily enough, she even spent time in Qatar, and I got in touch with her, and I gave her the tip. Go to the souk and sit in a cafe, and
Mm,
you'll find your quiet spot there. And yeah, she said she did. She said she'd done that. Funnily enough, so that was really interesting. But yeah,
yeah, that's
I did.
interesting.
I absorb a lot of other people's emotions. So if people are upset, like, especially if they're close relationships, if people are upset, I feel it. I almost feel that emotion in myself as well. So that's the kind of empathic side, as well as as well as the
Did
sort of
you always have
sensitivity.
that from like a very young age?
Yeah, yeah. I've
Okay.
always been like that. But again, that was another thing that when I was doing a lot of this research that I did when I was alone in Qatar, I found out about the highly sensitive
Yeah.
person condition as well. And I thought, oh, gosh, yeah, that is me. That is me to a T, exactly
Yeah.
me. And I'm wondering if these, this central nervous system, this increased sensitivity, and the neurological, connections around misophonia and everything, whether they're connected. I don't know whether they are. I mean, I guess not everybody who has misophonia is a highly sensitive person, but I've wondered if there was a connection there, because
Yeah.
I actually once went. Oh yeah, this is an interesting thing. I went once. I got uh, a little bit of Meniere's. I don't know if you've heard of Meniere's. That's a
No, what is
condition
that?
where you have terrible imbalance in. Nobody quite knows why people get Meniere's, but you have a dizziness that comes over you very suddenly. You can be sick as well, but I also had sort of buzzing in my ears, not quite tinnitus, but a similar sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to see an ENT, a hearing specialist, and they said I'd got extremely sensitive hearing. They said my
Mm.
hearing was off the charts sensitive. So
Like a hyperacusis, maybe, or
yeah, I think maybe they
something like
didn't. I
that.
don't think
Yeah.
they used the term, but they just said,
Mm.
because I said, look, there's something wrong with my ears, and they said, no, there's nothing wrong with your ears. In fact, it's the opposite. You've got really hypersensitive
Yeah.
hearing, and I only made that little connection recently, and I thought, I wonder if that's got something to do with the misophonia, because my triggers are very tiny sounds, like they're probably the things that people wouldn't even be able to hear,
Yeah.
like when someone's chewing, but they don't have to chew with their mouth open. I don't mind people noisily eating crisps; they can do that fine. But it's the little sounds that really make it worse for me. So I don't know whether there's a connection there. That's a whole sensitivity thing. It's
Yeah, I
really
mean,
interesting.
lots of comorbidities definitely with misophonia that I hear about them. Lots of people hear about like that. Yeah, hyperacusis, HSP, anxiety,
Mm.
OCD. There's I've even heard today about borderline personality disorder. So
Wow.
yeah, there's a bunch of things, but it seems like according to the researchers so far that there is something still unique about misophonia, even though
Ah,
it
okay.
could overlap, but
Mm.
it's not like it's a one-to-one correlation where something is directly causing misophonia.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
so yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, super interesting. Unfortunately, we have to talk about it, which we didn't have it, but that would be even more
Yeah.
interesting. But if there was a way to turn it off, but
Oh God. Yeah.
um, it's interesting being HSP in a having grown up in a not just having misophonia, but in an environment where it was seemed to be so basically anti-feeling to have
Yeah.
to be highly sensitive. I mean, you must have just felt extra on guard all the time because you didn't really have any. I guess, yeah, no one was on your level, basically. No one was
Yeah.
really on your wavelength, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Definitely.
nobody you could talk to. So were you able to talk to anybody, like friends, about emotional stuff, or did you just journal and keep everything bottled up?
I think that's why I journaled. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I didn't talk to anybody, no, about it. The funny thing is, the first friend I've really spoken to about this was just recently when I did my master's degree at university, because I
Hmm.
became friends with, and that's the other thing. I haven't got tons of friends. I've got a few friends who I really connect with, if you see what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
So, because that's the other thing. I hate parties. Oh
Hmm.
my goodness, invite me to a party, I'll make every excuse. or I'll go and I'll hand out the hors d'oeuvres. I'll busy myself by, I'm not really.
So I won't invite you to the podcast that second year anniversary party.
Well, if it's on Zoom, I'm fine.
Right.
But yeah, but because funnily enough, when I was working at the BBC, I used to have to organise big events. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
But I was fine with organising them, but I didn't really like, going to them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a few sort of friends that I'm really close to. And this one particular friend, we seem to gravitate towards each other. And then when we got talking, turns out she was a highly sensitive person, and she also had misophonia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask if you knew you had misophonia.
Yeah. And she seemed to know it was a thing, although she didn't know the name of it. But she said, "Oh yeah." She goes, "Yeah, I've had this." I said, "How did you know? How did you know it was a thing?" And she said, "Oh, I've done lots of research about it, before." And she goes, "Yeah, I'm highly sensitive." She goes, "I knew you were." She goes, I could spot it. And you sort of can you get a vibe. That's fine, because you are highly sensitive. You can tell. You can
tell how people react. Yeah.
You can pick up emotions.
Is this somebody here in the UK then? Or was this somebody somewhere else?
No, sadly, she lives in Brussels.
Okay.
But we video call a lot. And we give each other quite a lot of support.
Do you kind of like, if you're going through, I don't know, do you go through, if you're going through a moment, do you reach out, like just send her a quick text or something? Or I'm curious, do you use each other for therapy?
Yeah.
You WhatsApp? Yeah.
Occasionally, we'll WhatsApp. Yeah, and reach out to each other. Yeah, if we're going through some difficult stuff. Because she's now, funnily enough, living with her family too. So,
has she gone to see any professionals about any of her conditions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think she has. No.
Well, you can send a WhatsApp later and let me know if she's.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, cool. Pauline, we're heading to about an hour in. But this has been really great. I wanted to hear, is there anything else you kind of want to share with folks listening about your experience with miso, what you've learned, or how to end the war in Yemen or whatever?
Yeah, well, I think finding a cure for miso would probably be easier than ending the war in Yemen. That's for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just I think. I'm just sort of, getting on with it, I guess. Just trying to find new ways of coping every day. And I love listening to your podcast, because people do come up with, some interesting ones.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's really lovely when I hear people. I think somebody else. Was it lovely lady from Liverpool that you had on?
Oh, yes, Julie. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think she said something about the knitting, and I went, "Oh, I love you." When I
if you wanted me to introduce you guys,
when you hear that somebody else shares your sort of that, because I thought that was a bit of a weird one, but when I heard her, I think she said that. I can't remember whether that was her. But anyway, I thought yes. So I mean, what you do is I just want to thank you, really, because what you're doing is just so brilliant, and you're helping people beyond what you could ever imagine by doing this, because really, it's just so good to hear, to share things, to share these issues, and it's nice to have that community out there, people that are going through similar stuff. So thanks for that. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, thanks for coming on. There's a lot of us out there, so I love hearing these conversations. You don't really get to go one-on-one with people about this. It's usually you hear about some rant on Facebook or something. So it's good to hear each other's stories. So
definitely. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you, Pauline. Super interesting insights we don't usually get to hear, like life in the Middle East and moving back in with your parents after all these years. If you liked this episode, don't forget to leave a quick review or just hit the 5 stars wherever you listen to this podcast. Music, as always, is by Moby. And until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.